The boardroom fell silent as Victoria Reed stood at the head of the table, her Armani suit as sharp as her gaze. The Pentagon contract would save her company, but she needed unanimous approval. One person remained silent, the new janitor standing in the corner, supposedly there to fix the air conditioning. When an armed intruder burst through the door seconds later, the boardroom erupted in panic. Before Victoria could process what was happening, the quiet janitor had disarmed the attacker with military precision. Their eyes met across the chaos, hers wide with shock, his unreadable. This was no ordinary maintenance man. How does a high-powered CEO end up depending on a mysterious janitor with combat skills? What secrets lie beneath his humble exterior, and what forces have brought these two unlikely souls together? Their collision course with destiny will uncover a conspiracy that threatens everything they've built, and everything they might become, together. Victoria Reed commanded attention whenever she entered a room. At 35, she stood 5 feet 9 inches tall, with shoulder-length auburn hair typically worn in a sleek bun. Her sharp green eyes missed nothing, cataloging details others overlooked. Always impeccably dressed in designer business attire, navy, black, or deep burgundy, she wore success like armor. Only those who looked closely might notice the small scar on her right palm, a reminder of her climb from poverty that she never tried to hide. Known as the Ice Queen of Silicon Hill in Denver's tech corridor, Victoria had built Quantum Dynamics from scratch over the last decade. Her company specialized in secure communications systems, employing over 500 people. Raised by a single mother in a struggling Denver neighborhood, Victoria won a scholarship to MIT and graduated top of her class in electrical engineering. She started Quantum Dynamics in her garage at 25 with nothing but determination and brilliant ideas. Recently divorced from a venture capitalist who tried to take credit for her success, Victoria had no children and few close friends. She was married to her work. Brilliant, demanding, and precise, Victoria trusted data over intuition. She remained deeply loyal to her employees but maintained professional distance. Speaking 5 languages fluently, her anxiety manifested as over-preparation. She slept 4 hours a night, terrified of failure but more terrified of appearing vulnerable. Despite her success, Victoria battled imposter syndrome, had nightmares about returning to poverty, and struggled with loneliness she refused to acknowledge. Trust issues stemming from her ex-husband's betrayal and her father's abandonment colored her interactions. Marcus Reeves moved through the world like a shadow. At 38, his lean, muscular 6'2" frame couldn't be fully disguised by his janitor's uniform. His close-cropped dark hair showed premature silver at the temples, and his deep-set blue eyes observed everything while revealing nothing. A jagged scar ran from his left collarbone to shoulder, hidden beneath his clothing. He moved with quiet efficiency, wasting neither motion nor words. Recently hired as a janitor at Quantum Dynamics, Marcus worked night shifts and kept to himself. He lived in a sparse apartment on the outskirts of Denver, maintaining a rigorous routine that helped manage his severe PTSD. As a former Delta Force operator, he specialized in counterintelligence and cyber warfare, with a distinguished service record, including multiple classified missions. Marcus received an honorable discharge after a mission went catastrophically wrong in Eastern Europe 3 years ago, resulting in the deaths of 2 team members. Official records of his service had been heavily redacted. Observant, methodical, and patient, Marcus spoke rarely but precisely. He carried himself with quiet dignity despite his current position. Habitually watching exits and assessing threats, he possessed a dry, unexpected sense of humor that rarely surfaced. His loyalty to fallen comrades haunted him daily, as did the purpose vacuum he experienced after leaving military service. A deep distrust of authority lingered after being scapegoated for the failed mission that ended his career. Victoria Reed stood at the precipice of her career's defining moment. Quantum Dynamics was one of 3 finalists for a $1.2 billion Pentagon contract for next-generation secure communications systems. The final presentation was in 2 weeks, and everything had to be perfect. Her company's proprietary quantum encryption algorithm, nicknamed Skeleton Key, represented a breakthrough that could revolutionize military communications. The pressure was almost unbearable, but Victoria had never buckled under pressure before. Late one night, Victoria worked alone in her office, triple-checking presentation slides. The building's power suddenly cut out, plunging her into darkness. Emergency systems failed to activate. In the heavy silence, she heard unfamiliar footsteps in the hallway. Heart pounding, she grabbed a letter opener from her desk, preparing to defend herself when the door opened, revealing Marcus with a flashlight. "Power grid failure," he explained calmly. "Backup generators aren't responding. I was doing maintenance when it happened. You should leave. I can escort you to your car." Victoria studied him suspiciously. She'd barely noticed the new maintenance man before, but something in his steady gaze made her uneasy. "And you are?" "Marcus Reeves, building maintenance." Distrustful but lacking options, Victoria reluctantly accepted his offer. As they navigated the darkened building, Marcus moved with surprising confidence, guiding them through service corridors she didn't know existed. Turning a corner near the research and development lab, they encountered two masked intruders attempting to breach the security door with electronic equipment. Before Victoria could react, Marcus pulled her into an alcove, signaling for silence. His entire demeanor had changed, alert, focused, dangerous. When one intruder headed their way, Marcus stepped out and neutralized him with precise military-grade moves, while the second intruder escaped down a stairwell. Victoria watched in shock as Marcus accessed the building's backup systems through a maintenance panel, restoring limited power and locking down the facility. "Who are you really?" Victoria demanded when they were alone, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Someone who knows this wasn't a coincidence," Marcus replied, checking the unconscious intruder for identification and finding none. "They targeted your building specifically." Police arrived 15 minutes later. The security footage had been erased, and the captured intruder had no identification. The only evidence of the break-in attempt was a sophisticated signal jammer left behind. The detective suggested hiring additional security until the Pentagon presentation. Eyeing the damaged equipment with concern, Victoria made a decision that surprised even herself. "I want this man assigned as my personal security detail," she said, gesturing to Marcus. "Effective immediately." Later, in her office with temporary power restored, Victoria confronted him. "No janitor moves like that. Who are you really, and why are you in my building?" Marcus revealed only that he believed someone inside Quantum Dynamics was leaking technology to foreign interests. Victoria was outraged at the accusation, but couldn't ignore the break-in attempt. They struck an uneasy bargain. He would protect her and help identify the security breach. She would provide access to investigate potential leaks. Neither fully trusted the other, but circumstances forced their collaboration. "You'll stay at my guest house?" Victoria insisted as they left. "I want you where I can watch you." As they drove to her mountain property outside Denver, Victoria didn't notice the black sedan following at a distance, nor did she recognize the driver. Her trusted chief financial officer, Richard Keller, living in close proximity created immediate tension. Victoria's modernist glass and steel home in the foothills reflected her precise, controlled aesthetic. Marcus's military minimalism and hypervigilance clashed with her executive lifestyle. She woke at 5 a.m. to find Marcus had already swept the entire property for surveillance devices, rearranged her furniture for better defensive positioning, and prepared a protein-heavy breakfast. "You moved my furniture," she noted coldly, eyeing the repositioned sofa that now faced the entrance. "You can see all entry points now," Marcus replied, sliding a detailed security assessment across the kitchen island. "Your home has 14 vulnerable access points. Your office has 7. Your daily routine is dangerously predictable." Victoria scanned the document, unnerved by his matter-of-fact listing of ways she could be targeted. "Is this supposed to make me feel safer?" "No, it's supposed to make you aware." His expression remained neutral. "Awareness keeps you alive." At the office, Victoria introduced Marcus as a security consultant brought in for the Pentagon project. Her executive team exchanged skeptical glances, particularly Richard Keller, her CFO and oldest friend in the company. Richard pulled Victoria aside after the meeting, concern evident in his expression. "Vicky, who is this guy really? His credentials are thin, and he appeared right when we need maximum security. Doesn't that strike you as convenient?" Victoria dismissed his concerns while privately sharing them. The police recommended additional security after the break-in. His background checked out. Marcus shadowed Victoria through her day, observing her interactions with her team. He noted Richard's apparent resentment, the technical director's nervousness around certain topics, and the clear respect Victoria commanded despite her aloof demeanor. He was particularly interested in access patterns to the R&D lab, where the skeleton key algorithm was stored. During a tense executive meeting about security protocols for the Pentagon presentation, Richard challenged the necessity of extreme measures. "This level of paranoia will make us look unstable to the military committee." Marcus broke his silence with a coldly precise assessment. "Your competitors could extract your entire algorithm through electromagnetic emissions from your lab equipment. They could clone access cards from proximity alone. They could bribe cleaning staff for $500 to plant devices in your HVAC system." The room fell silent at his detailed knowledge of corporate espionage tactics. That evening, Victoria accessed Marcus's personnel file, finding most of his military record redacted. Confronting him at her home, she demanded more truth. "These blackouts in your file? What are they hiding?" Marcus revealed only that his final mission involved tracking military technology being sold to terrorist organizations. When pressed about why he was working as a janitor at her company specifically, he deflected. "You needed better security. I needed a position that wouldn't attract attention." Their argument was interrupted by a call from Victoria's mother, who was in the hospital after a minor fall. Despite Victoria's protests, Marcus insisted on driving her there, analyzing potential security threats even in this personal moment. At the hospital, Victoria was surprised when Marcus gave her privacy with her mother, but noted he positioned himself to observe all entrance points to the room. "You worked so hard as a girl," her mother reminisced, holding Victoria's hand. 3 jobs at 16 just to help with the bills. So stubborn, never taking handouts." Marcus, standing just outside the door, listened without comment, but a flicker of recognition crossed his face. Returning home late, they found Victoria's alarm system disabled, and evidence someone had been inside. Nothing appeared stolen, but Marcus discovered a sophisticated listening device in her home office. Rather than removing it, he left it in place, after showing Victoria, whispering that it was better to feed false information than alert the listener they'd been discovered. That night, unable to sleep knowing her home had been invaded, Victoria found Marcus sitting on her patio in the darkness, cleaning a handgun. She brought 2 glasses of whiskey, offering one wordlessly. They sat in silence, watching the Denver lights below. "Why are you really here?" she finally asked. Marcus answered cryptically, "Because last time, I was too late." The next morning, Victoria received anonymous photographs showing her entering her home with Marcus, along with a message. "The Pentagon wouldn't approve of your new bodyguard's background. Withdraw from the contract race, or these go to your board and the military committee." Victoria hid the threat from Marcus, her trust still not solidified. The pressure intensified as the Pentagon presentation approached. Victoria threw herself into preparation while maintaining the appearance of normality. Marcus continued his investigation, gaining access to personnel files and security logs through his maintenance credentials. The silent chess match within quantum dynamics grew more complex daily. Victoria held a charity gala at Denver's Art Museum, a critical networking event with military officials who would influence the contract decision. Marcus attended as part of her security team, uncomfortable but professional in a suit. Victoria was struck by his transformation. In proper attire, his military bearing and intelligence were unmistakable. "You clean up surprisingly well, Mr. Reeves," she murmured as they entered the grand hall. "Don't get used to it," he replied, eyes already scanning the room for threats. During the event, Victoria was approached by General Lawrence Hayes, the primary decision-maker for the Pentagon contract. Their conversation about quantum encryption applications was interrupted when Marcus smoothly intercepted a waiter moving too directly toward them. "Champagne, sir?" the waiter offered, but Marcus had already spotted the hidden camera on the serving tray. "Not from you," Marcus replied pleasantly, gripping the man's wrist with subtle force. He discreetly showed Victoria the surveillance device, as security escorted the fake waiter away. Later that evening, Victoria overheard Richard speaking Russian on the phone in a secluded corner of the museum. Her CFO had claimed he only spoke English and French. When she mentioned this to Marcus, his expression darkened. He revealed that the technology from his failed mission was traced to Russian intermediaries. Coincidences stack up quickly in this business, he noted grimly. Returning to her office after the gala, Victoria found it ransacked. The specific target became clear. Test results showing the capabilities of the skeleton key algorithm were missing. More disturbing, the theft required executive access codes. The circle of suspects narrowed to her most trusted team. Marcus insisted they could not trust the police, or even Victoria's internal security. They reviewed security footage together in her home office, with Marcus teaching Victoria to spot signs of professional training in the way the thief moved. The footage revealed someone using Richard's access card, but wearing gloves and keeping their face hidden from cameras. It's not proof, Marcus cautioned. Access cards can be cloned. Victoria refused to believe Richard was involved. He was my first investor, when no one else would take a chance on a young female engineer. He believed in me when no one else did. That night, Victoria discovered Marcus accessing her personal computer. Their confrontation escalated until Marcus showed her what he found. Someone had been remotely monitoring her email and phone communications for months. More disturbing, the intrusion originated from her company's own servers. The next morning, Richard didn't show up for work. His apartment was empty, with evidence of a hasty departure. Victoria felt betrayed but still didn't fully trust Marcus. She deliberately fed him partial information about a backup copy of the skeleton key algorithm kept in a secure location. Marcus pretended to believe her, while recognizing the trap. He followed Victoria to a private bank, where she accessed a safety deposit box. After she left, he approached the bank manager with falsified authorization documents. The manager revealed Victoria collected hardware encryption keys stored in the box. When Victoria returned home, she found Marcus waiting with the evidence of her deception laid out. Instead of anger, he showed respect for her caution. He finally revealed more truth. He had been working with a covert military intelligence unit investigating technology leaks. Multiple defense contractors had been compromised, with key personnel turned or replaced. Quantum Dynamics was the latest target, because of the skeleton key algorithm's revolutionary potential. Victoria realized the magnitude of what they were facing. Not just corporate espionage, but a coordinated attack on national security. As they compared notes, Marcus's phone rang with an automated alert. Someone was accessing the R&D lab using Richard's credentials, which Marcus had flagged in the system. They rushed to the company, using back entrances to avoid detection. Through security cameras, they observed someone systematically downloading data from the secure servers. When they attempted to lock down the system remotely, the intruder received an alert on their phone. As they looked up toward the camera, Victoria gasped in recognition. It wasn't Richard, but her trusted technical director, Alex Mercer. Victoria and Marcus confronted Alex in the lab. Realizing he was caught, Alex revealed he was recruited by a foreign intelligence network targeting American defense technology. Richard had discovered his activities and was likely eliminated. Alex had already transmitted the skeleton key algorithm to his handlers. "You don't understand what you've created," Alex told Victoria, his voice shaking. "It's not just an encryption system. It's the key to breaking every secure system in the world." "Did you think they'd let you control that power?" As security guards responded to the alarm, Alex triggered an explosion in the lab. In the chaos, Marcus shielded Victoria with his body, sustaining a serious shrapnel wound to his shoulder, in exactly the spot where his existing scar lay. Alex escaped in the confusion. Marcus's injury required immediate attention. Victoria took him to her home rather than a hospital, where questions would be asked. As she helped him remove his shirt to treat the wound, she saw his extensive scars, including a distinctive one matching his recent injury. A memory stirred, a young cadet who once showed kindness to a desperate teenager. "Hold still," she instructed, cleaning the wound with steady hands. "This isn't my first time stitching someone up. When you can't afford doctors, you learn things." Marcus watched her work, his usual stoicism cracked by pain. "Where did you learn field medicine?" "My neighborhood wasn't exactly safe. Neither was MIT on scholarship." She paused, a question forming. 20 years ago, did you attend the military academy in Colorado Springs?" Marcus looked at her in shock, the memory returning. "How did you know that?" "A cadet gave his coat to a girl selling newspapers in the snow, bought all her papers and gave her his lunch money too." Victoria's voice softened. "That was you, wasn't it?" He nodded slowly. "I never connected that determined girl with you." Victoria revealed that his simple kindness gave her hope during her darkest time, inspiring her perseverance. This shared memory shifted their dynamic profoundly. As Victoria stitched his wound, Marcus finally told her the full truth about his mission. 3 years ago, his team tracked stolen military technology to a compound in Eastern Europe. The operation went catastrophically wrong, they were expected, walking into an ambush that killed 2 of his teammates. Marcus was blamed for the intelligence failure and pushed into early retirement. Unable to let go, he continued investigating privately, eventually tracing the intelligence leak to several defense contractors, including Quantum Dynamics. He took the janitor position to investigate without raising alarms. What he never expected was to find himself protecting the CEO he had come to investigate. Victoria, processing this revelation, shared her own secrets. The skeleton key algorithm wasn't merely an encryption system. It could potentially break any existing encryption almost instantaneously. In the wrong hands, it could compromise global financial systems, nuclear launch codes, and critical infrastructure. The Pentagon contract was partly a way to ensure the technology would be controlled. Their newfound trust was interrupted by an alert from the security system Marcus had installed. Someone was on the property. Marcus, despite his injury, moved with Victoria to a panic room he had discovered and enhanced during his first days at her house. Through security monitors, they watched as a tactical team swept the house with military precision. The team's leader was revealed to be General Hayes from the Pentagon Committee. Victoria was stunned by this betrayal. Marcus recognized the tactical patterns. These were American operatives, but not working through official channels. They were facing a shadow operation within their own government. Using Marcus's military background and Victoria's intimate knowledge of her home's architecture, they escaped through a maintenance tunnel Marcus had identified in his security assessment. They fled into the mountains behind her property as her house exploded behind them. A clear attempt to eliminate them and any evidence. In a remote cabin Marcus had prepared as a safe house, they regrouped. Victoria realized the magnitude of the conspiracy. Someone within military intelligence was orchestrating the theft of defense technology to sell to foreign powers, using contractors like Alex as scapegoats. The skeleton key algorithm would be the crown jewel, worth billions on the black market and devastating to national security. Marcus revealed his final secret. He wasn't just investigating randomly. He had identified Victoria's company as the next likely target based on a pattern. He was originally suspicious that she might be complicit, given how perfectly the skeleton key met the needs of those stealing technology. Now he was certain she'd been an unwitting pawn in a larger game. Victoria, processing that her life's work had been manipulated from the start, faced a moment of existential crisis. Everything she built might have been part of someone else's design. Marcus, recognizing her distress, shared wisdom from his military days. The mission changes, the objective shifts. What matters is how you adapt. As dawn broke over the mountains, they formed a new partnership. No longer CEO and janitor, not quite fugitives, but 2 people uniquely positioned to uncover a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of power. For 3 days, Victoria and Marcus remained at the remote cabin, strategizing while monitoring news reports about the tragic gas explosion at Victoria's home and the industrial accident at Quantum Dynamics. They were both presumed dead, giving them a temporary advantage. Living in close quarters under extreme stress accelerated their connection. Victoria struggled with the loss of her identity, her company, reputation, and life's work potentially destroyed. Marcus understood this particular loss, having experienced similar when forced out of the military. Your company isn't you, he told her one evening as they sat before the fireplace. They can take everything you built, but they can't take what built it. Your mind, your determination. One night, during a severe mountain thunderstorm that triggered Marcus's PTSD, Victoria found him hyperventilating on the cabin porch. Drawing on crisis management techniques she learned in business, she talked him through grounding exercises. This role reversal, her protecting him, marked a turning point in their relationship. The next morning, Marcus taught Victoria basic tactical skills: how to handle a weapon, evade surveillance, establish secure communications. She proved a quick study, her engineer's mind adapting to these new parameters. In turn, she helped Marcus hack into secure databases using techniques she developed for penetration testing her own systems. Through careful digital investigation, they identified a pattern of defense technology appearing in foreign military systems shortly after development by American contractors. The common thread was Pentagon Oversight Committee members, particularly General Hayes, who evaluated each compromised technology. Before Bannon could clean everything up, the man who led his army to victory realized they needed access to her backup servers, maintained in a separate facility outside Denver as part of her disaster recovery protocol. The servers contained evidence of who accessed the skeleton key algorithm and when, potentially proving the conspiracy reached into the Pentagon itself. Marcus was reluctant to return to the city, knowing they'd be walking into danger. Victoria challenged him. "You were willing to die for your country in combat. Is this any different?" Her question cut to his core. He'd been hiding in plain sight, seeking redemption, but avoiding true risk since his mission failed. Before leaving the cabin, they shared a moment of vulnerability. Victoria admitted her drive for success was fueled by the shame of poverty and her father's abandonment. Marcus revealed that his rigid military discipline masked a fear of his own capacity for violence. He came from a family with a history of abuse that he'd spent his life ensuring he never perpetuated. As they prepared to depart, Victoria impulsively cut and dyed her distinctive auburn hair, emerging with a short platinum blonde style that transformed her appearance. Marcus, watching her systematic reinvention, recognized the same determination he saw in the teenage newspaper girl 2 decades earlier. They returned to Denver using identities Marcus prepared as contingencies, posing as an IT consultant and his assistant. They established surveillance on the backup server facility, identifying security patterns and shift changes. During their stakeout, Victoria spotted Richard, her supposedly missing CFO, entering the facility using his still suctive credentials. Shocked that he was alive, Victoria wanted to approach him immediately. Marcus urged caution, suggesting Richard may be working with those who tried to kill them. Victoria created a distraction at the facility's main entrance while Marcus intercepted Richard in the parking garage. Their confrontation revealed the truth. Richard discovered Alex's espionage activities and faked his disappearance after receiving death threats against his family. He'd been gathering evidence independently. Richard was stunned to find Victoria alive. He revealed that Quantum Dynamics had been placed under government control due to national security concerns, with General Hayes leading the takeover. The official story claimed Victoria embezzled technology and died attempting to flee the country. The three formulated a plan to access the backup servers, with Richard providing entry credentials. As they prepared to move, Victoria impulsively grasped Marcus's hand. He looked at her with surprise, and she simply said, "Whatever happens, I'm glad it was you who found me in the dark that night." Marcus, normally stoic, responded with unexpected emotion. "I think maybe we found each other, twice now." The moment was brief but electric, acknowledgement of feelings developing despite, or perhaps because of, the extraordinary circumstances binding them together. Using Richard's access, they entered the server facility after hours. Victoria worked quickly to extract the access logs while Marcus maintained security and Richard kept watch. The logs confirmed their suspicions. General Hayes personally accessed the skeleton key algorithm multiple times, using emergency override protocols that wouldn't trigger normal alert. More damning, they discovered communications between Hayes and foreign operatives, negotiating the sale of the algorithm for astronomical sums. The conspiracy was larger than they imagined. Hayes led a network of officials and contractors selling American military technology to multiple foreign powers, playing them against each other for maximum profit. As Victoria downloaded the evidence, alarm systems activated. Security footage showed Hayes and a tactical team entering the building. They'd been expected. Richard's credentials were being monitored. Marcus realized they'd walked into a trap. Richard volunteered to create a diversion, allowing Marcus and Victoria to escape with the evidence. Before they separated, Richard gave Victoria a small flash drive, explaining it contained financial records, proving Hayes had received millions through offshore accounts. As gunfire erupted elsewhere in the building, Marcus led Victoria through maintenance corridors toward a potential escape route. They were cut off by Alex Mercer, Victoria's former technical director, now clearly working directly with Hayes. Alex was armed and revealed Hayes sent him specifically to eliminate Victoria, the only person who fully understood the skeleton key algorithm and could prove it was stolen. Marcus engaged Alex in hand-to-hand combat while Victoria attempted to find another escape route. The fight was brutal, with Alex's youth and desperation matched against Marcus's experience and training. Alex gained the upper hand, using Marcus's old shoulder wound against him. Victoria, returning to help, used her newly learned tactical skills to disarm Alex. When Alex lunged toward her, Marcus was forced to make a terrible choice. He shot Alex to save Victoria, killing the man who was once her trusted colleague. The moment crystallized something for both of them, the lengths they're now willing to go to protect each other. There was no time to process this, however, as Hayes and his team were closing in. They fled to the building's roof, where Marcus had identified a potential helicopter landing pad during their surveillance. Seemingly trapped, Victoria pulled out a small device she secretly took from her company's prototype lab before their escape, a signal disruptor based on the skeleton key algorithm. Activating it caused all electronic communications in the building to fail simultaneously, including Hayes' team's radio communications and the electronic door locks. In the confusion, they made their escape, but not before Hayes himself confronted them on the roof. Hayes revealed his motivation: decades of serving a country that discarded soldiers like Marcus, while civilians like Victoria built fortunes on military contracts. His bitterness matched the disillusionment Marcus felt after his discharge, creating an uncomfortable mirror. When Hayes offered Marcus a place in his operation, "We're not so different, you and I," Marcus must confront his own demons. For a moment, Victoria feared he might consider it, recognizing the pain both men share. Instead, Marcus reaffirmed his core values. "The difference is, I never forgot who I was protecting and why." The confrontation escalated until Hayes drew his weapon on Victoria. Marcus moved without hesitation, taking a bullet meant for her. In the chaos that followed, Victoria used Marcus's sidearm to wound Hayes as a police helicopter approached, drawn by the facility's automated alarms. Hayes, realizing he was cornered, attempted to destroy the evidence by shooting at Victoria's laptop containing the downloaded files. Richard appeared with building security forces, having escaped the diversion he created. Hayes was taken into custody, but Marcus was severely wounded. As medics arrived, Victoria refused to leave his side, publicly identifying herself despite the danger of revealing she was alive. As Marcus was loaded into an ambulance, Victoria pressed the flash drive with Hayes's financial records into the hand of an FBI agent who had arrived on scene, ensuring the conspiracy would be exposed, even if she and Marcus didn't survive the night. 3 months later, Victoria testified before a closed Senate Intelligence Committee. The conspiracy had been partially exposed, with Hayes and several Pentagon officials indicted. However, many details remained classified, and some conspirators remained at large or protected by political connections. Victoria had been cleared of wrongdoing but faced the daunting task of rebuilding her company and reputation. The skeleton key algorithm had been placed under highest national security protection, with Victoria retaining primary development rights under strict oversight. After her testimony, Victoria visited a military rehabilitation facility outside Seattle. Marcus was recovering from his injuries, expected to make a full physical recovery, though the psychological wounds ran deeper. Their relationship had evolved during his recovery, with Victoria regularly visiting between rebuilding her company. In his physical therapy room overlooking Puget Sound, they discussed their futures. Marcus had been offered reinstatement with honors and promotion in recognition of exposing the conspiracy. Victoria had received acquisition offers from larger defense contractors looking to capitalize on her suddenly higher profile. Both options represented returns to their former lives, paths of ambition and duty that defined them before they met. Yet both now recognized these paths as incomplete. Victoria revealed she was starting over, establishing a smaller, more focused company dedicated to defensive rather than offensive technology, with an emphasis on protecting civilian infrastructure. She wanted Marcus's help, not just for security, but for his ethical perspective on how technology should be deployed. Marcus admitted that returning to military service felt like stepping backward. His sense of duty remained, but his understanding of how to fulfill it had evolved. Working with Victoria offered a different kind of purpose, building something rather than being prepared to destroy. Richard, now acting CEO of Quantum Dynamics during its reorganization, had arranged for Victoria to retain key patents that would fund her new venture. He served as a bridge between her past achievements and future aspirations. The final scene took place at a small house Victoria had purchased in the mountains outside Seattle. It was nothing like her former modernist showcase. It was modest, practical, defensible, as Marcus noted with approval. They stood on the deck watching the sunset over the Olympic Mountains. Victoria observed that they'd both lost and found themselves through their ordeal. Marcus, more at peace than she'd seen him, noted that his military trainers taught him that who you are emerges when everything else is stripped away. Victoria reached for his hand, the scar on her palm visible, a match to the one he received protecting her. "So who are we now?" she asked. Marcus, looking at their joined hands, answered with simple certainty. "Survivors. Partners." After a moment's hesitation, he added softly, "Maybe more if you want that." Disappointment left Owen and Jason. Victoria didn't answer immediately, instead pointing to a newspaper she brought home. The headline announced ongoing investigations into defense contract irregularities beyond Hayes' immediate circle. "There's still work to do," she said. "People who need to be held accountable." Marcus understood she was offering not just a personal connection but a shared mission, combining her business acumen and his tactical experience to continue exposing corruption while building something valuable. "Where do we start?" he asked. Victoria smiled, the determined look of the newspaper girl now visible in the powerful woman she'd become.